Hey, I'm Brian Miller, professional magician, author, speaker, and audio nerd. And welcome to Behind the Magic, where we do inspiration, tips, and tutorials for creative people like you and me. And in this video, we are comparing two of the most popular microphones on YouTube. Still, at the end of 2018 going into 2019, the Rode VideoMicro and the Movo VXR10. I have already done count them, three videos on these two microphones. You think, how could there possibly be anything else to talk about? And yet, I've been requested repeatedly to do a test of the microphones on guitar rather than on voice for vlogging. So I set back up my blind audio shootout rig, and I'm gonna go over the conditions before we get into the samples. But hey, if you're somebody who doesn't care about the conditions, you don't care what you're listening for or why it matters, then just skip right here to this time. You can just listen to the samples and make whatever decision you want based on having no information about what you're listening to whatsoever. So there you go. You can't yell at me in the comments for talking for the next 2 or 3 minutes about the conditions of the test. For the rest of us who actually care about what we're listening to and why it matters, here's what the test is gonna look like. We're actually gonna do 4 versions of this test. We're gonna do acoustic guitar, clean electric guitar, heavy overdrive electric guitar, and also singer-songwriter, so singing and playing acoustic guitar at the same time. For each of the tests, you will be hearing both microphones recorded simultaneously through a splitter into the Tascam DR05. I'm gonna split them apart in post, and you will hear no post-processing whatsoever apart from leveling to make sure that both mics are playing at the same perceived volume. So you're probably going to want to make a chart something like this so that you can go through and choose A or B for each of the 4 tests to figure out which one you like best. I will reveal at the end of this video which ones were which. They will not necessarily be in the same order for each test, although they may be. All the way at the end of the video, after I reveal which one was which, we are going to chat a little bit about which one I believe is best for different scenarios. So if you're a guitarist and you actually care about the guitars and the amps that I'm using for this test, you can check that out in the description. I'll leave that down there. Okay, I've talked long enough. Let's get into the test. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Takes a lot to change a man, it takes a lot to try. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Takes a lot to change a man, it takes a lot to try. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Well, as you can see from the lack of light coming in the window behind me, it took literally all day to shoot and edit the 7 or 8 minutes that you just watched. It was actually kind of amazing when I just watched it back. It looked like an incredibly simple video to make, but it was not. All right, you wanna know which one is which? 3, 2, what the heck just happened? 3, 2, 1. And that's which one was which. In the first test with the acoustic, it was the Movo first. In every other situation, the Rode was first. Now that you know which one is which, I'm gonna play just very short 8 or 10-second clips from each of the 4 tests again with the microphone on the screen so you know what you're listening for. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Well, I promised you my thoughts on the situation, and I gotta tell you, it wasn't even close. It was the Movo. Hands down, it was the Movo every time. I know that might not be surprising because you've heard me come to that conclusion in like 3 different videos before. I obviously have an affinity for the Movo microphone, but I really did go into this with an open mind. I went into it actually believing that the Rode was gonna win out in 1 or 2 of the scenarios. The brightness, the harshness of the Rode mic really became apparent. When we were listening to the acoustic guitar, it made the acoustic sound incredibly thin and tinny. When we were listening to the clean electric, that was probably the best one for the Rode, although I still liked the Movo better. The Rode kind of made the amp sound bright and ringy, more like a Fender amp. But the thing is, I'm using like this warm Hughes and Kettner that doesn't sound like that at all. So if you were trying to make a warm amp sound brighter, the Rode might be a good fit for you, but it did not accurately portray the amp at all. And then of course, the overdrive electric guitar was without a doubt the worst for the Rode. The overdrive electric is already pretty harsh, and then when you added the brightness and the harshness of the Rode on top of that, it became just an absolute disaster. Terrible, terrible sound. And when we got to the singer-songwriter, the Rode did accentuate the voice, but what happened is I was doing a fairly quiet finger picking, and I was singing fairly loudly on top of that, and the difference between those volumes got even more apparent when the Rode accentuated the voice. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Meanwhile, on the Movo side, it made the acoustic guitar very warm and inviting. The electric guitar, the clean electric, it had a nice body to it, and I feel like it more accurately represented the amp itself. It smoothed out the harshness of the overdrive when I was doing some heavy distortion. And And then with the singer-songwriter, the Movo helped to actually minimize a little bit, smooth the difference between that drastic volume gap between the acoustic guitar being fingerpicked and the voice singing.
Maybe it's time to let the old ways die.
So in all situations, the Movo came out on top, often drastically so. But I'd love to hear what you thought about it. Did you agree, disagree? Let us all know in the comments which one you liked better when you were listening to it blind. Let us know if any of if it surprised you in any way, what you thought. This would be great to get a conversation going because of course, it's all really up to taste. Everybody's ears are different. I would always prefer to work with a microphone that gives me more information rather than less. The Rode has very, very little bass response at all, and you can't add in something that you didn't record to begin with. Meanwhile, with the Movo, it's got a much, much deeper bass response, and if you need to carve out a little bit of that, you can. It sometimes comes off as a little muddy, but you can do a low mid scoop just a little bit to tighten that up. I want to show you an example of the Maybe It's Time song, a little clip of that with post-production on it from the Movo.
Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Takes a lot to change a man, it takes a lot to try. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die.
Yeah, it's a huge difference, and that's a really, really usable sound if you are recording singer-songwriter stuff to upload to YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. All right, I'm just gonna address one more thing. No, I have not been paid by Movo. No, I am not affiliated with Movo. I have not been sponsored by Movo in any way, although not for lack of trying. Anyway, thanks so much for sticking around. My name is Brian Miller. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you really wanna support me directly, there's never been a better time to pick up my new book. The book is called 3 New People, Make the Most of Your Daily Interactions and Stop Missing Amazing Opportunities. This is the companion to my work as a motivational speaker, a corporate keynote speaker, and a workshop presenter. Essentially, this is everything that I know and do and talk about when it comes to human connection and communication. Amazon is undercutting its own price right now. They have this book, it's $17 retail. They're listing it for $7 right now, which means they're losing money on every sale because of the royalty they have to pay me. They're listing it so cheap. So it's never been a better time to go pick it up and get it in before the holidays or give it as a gift. I'd really appreciate it. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, I really believe that you will enjoy this and that you will get something out of it. Thanks so much for sticking with me, and always remember that our world is a shared experience. Have a great day.